Hey everyone, you're watching We Had That, and today I'm going to talk about the 1988 Wave 7 GI Joe Spearhead action figure and his Bobcat Max. After a run of more than 10 years as a 1/6 scale action figure in the 1960s and 1970s, GI Joe returned in 1982 as a 3 3/4 inch real American hero. For the next few years, GI Joe action figures, comic books, and cartoons dominated the consciousness of kids across the country. However, by 1988, the military look that I liked best on my GI Joe figures was becoming less common. More and more figures had outfits that would have fit better with a science fiction toy line than the military line I wanted from GI Joe. There were several figures that came close to what I wanted, but didn't quite hit the mark. Spearhead was definitely one of those figures. My introduction to Spearhead was one of the little pictures on the back of a package from another 1988 GI Joe. I thought he looked pretty cool in that tiny picture. Even when I saw Spearhead and Max attached to the package in the store, the art on the front of the package looked awesome. Well, at least the art for Spearhead looked awesome. Max looked kind of weird. Seeing Spearhead for the first time in the package, he actually seemed cool to me. He has a good head sculpt, he came with a lot of gear, and an animal, so that felt like an added value. When I bought this figure, it seemed like a good choice. It wasn't until I got home and took him out of the package that I started to feel that sinking twinge of buyer's remorse in the pit of my stomach, and I can tell you exactly what caused it. It was when I first put the helmet on his head. The helmet looks fine in the card art, and actually the physical helmet itself looks okay when it's not on the figure. The problem is that the helmet is just too thick, and when you put it on the figure, it looks huge. Seeing him with his helmet on just made me think more and more about the other issues with the figure. Even as a kid, the orange spots on his uniform and the bright orange backpack made no sense to me. It seemed like no matter what terrain he was trying to blend into, he was going to stand out. If it weren't for the orange, he would have seemed like he was dressed for the desert. Was he supposed to be a desert trooper? There's no mention of it on his file card. If he was supposed to be a desert trooper, then why the orange? And if he wasn't supposed to be a desert trooper, why the orange? His file card didn't give me much of a clue about the color, but it did make me feel like he was even less cool of a character than I had originally thought. Peter R. Millman was an insurance salesman, and because he was so well liked and trusted, he was able to sell people more insurance than they could afford. I don't think most kids consider insurance sales to be a great skill for a GI Joe team member to have, but when you add to that the fact that his file card straight up tells us that this guy definitely did not have other people's best interest in mind, it didn't do a lot to make up for the neon backpack. I understand that the point of the file card is that Spearhead was the point man, and he was good at that because people will follow this guy anywhere. That part's fine, but they're following a popular jerk who makes bad choices. When I was a kid, I knew a lot of these guys. They were bullies and they made my life difficult. I didn't need an action figure of one of them. Anyway, his file card didn't say anything about Spearhead being a desert trooper, just that his rank was an E4, he was a point man, his primary military specialty was infantry, and his secondary military specialty was finance. So why the weird outfit? Also, the file card didn't give us any information about why he has a Bobcat running around with him. The only mention of Max the Bobcat seemed like an afterthought at the end of the file card. And of course, Spearhead's Mad Cat Max is always a source of inspiration. As a kid, I liked it when a figure came with an animal. I loved Mutt and his faithful dog Junkyard. Version 2 of Snake Eyes came with a cool wolf named Timber, and even Spirit had an eagle named Freedom. It was kind of like getting a second character for no additional cost. So I didn't mind Max the Bobcat, and in my mind, he was a loyal companion who acted more like a dog. But as an adult, a Bobcat seems like a ridiculous choice for an animal companion. I mean, it's a cat, but more dangerous. To everyone! Have you ever lived with a regular house cat? They're the opposite of what you want from a soldier. They don't follow orders, they don't respect authority, they do their own thing, and often it seems like they enjoy messing with the people in their family. But this is a toy, and again, as a kid, I liked having Max the Bobcat. Let's take a quick look at Spearhead's other accessories. I've already mentioned his Dayglow backpack, but I should say that aside from the color, it really is a cool backpack. There's a knife strapped to the top and a sleeping bag strapped to the bottom. There's several pouches on the sides and 3 canteens on the back. 3 canteens? Maybe he was a desert trooper. Despite the cool design, I never could get over the color. Spearhead also came with a giant light gray rifle. I didn't pay much attention to the details as a kid, but it was too big to feel realistic to me. I never gave much thought to the fact that there were 2 clips on the rifle, one right in front of the other. Although there are instances where rifles might have 2 clips, I don't know how this design would work. Then again, I'm no expert. But regardless of any of the details, I would have preferred a more realistically sized gun. Lastly, Spearhead came with an item described on the package as a knife. Although there isn't a universal set length when a knife becomes a sword, I can't think of an instance when I've seen something longer than about a foot referred to as a knife. I think it's pretty clearly a sword. Some people have referred to it as a machete, which would have made more sense as an accessory for this character, but the design appears to be more like an oriental sword than a machete. Actually, the design doesn't seem to relate to anything about this character at all, and it makes me wonder if it was originally designed for another figure and just ended up with Spearhead because they had already made the mold or something like that. I mentioned earlier that I thought Spearhead came close to being a cool figure, but didn't quite hit the mark. If I were shown this figure as a prototype and asked to make suggestions for improvements, I would suggest several things. First, I would have given him a smaller, more realistic gun with a helmet that fit right. Take a look at Spearhead as he was released in 1988. Now let's give him Airborne's rifle in the same color gray as Spearhead's gun and Bazooka's helmet. Try to imagine the helmet in tan. I think that looks better. Or we could give him Airborne's black rifle and one of the helmets from Wave 1 in tan. That looks much better to me. Next, I would have replaced everything orange with either tan or brown. Then I would have given him a machete instead of his knife sword. And last, I would have painted the pads on his arm brown to match the boots instead of tan to match the torso. It seems like this paint app was a waste of money because it's so close to the color of the plastic that it doesn't really make all that much of a difference. Many of the color issues were fixed in 1989 with the release of the Night Force version of Spearhead, where all of his accessories, and even Max, were molded in black, and his uniform was a mixture of dark gray, brown, and green. I'm not sure why Hasbro let some of these issues go. It seems like the first few waves they paid more attention to detail, but by 1988, strange outfits, wild color schemes, and bizarre accessories weren't the only things that had changed with the line. 1988 was also a unique year for GI Joe because there wasn't a cartoon to introduce kids to the new wave of figures. So we didn't get any kind of feel for the character of Spearhead from seeing his adventures on TV. We could still get to know the new Joes through the Marvel comic book, but Spearhead didn't make a single appearance in the regular GI Joe comic. His only appearance in any of the comics was in issue number 21 of GI Joe Special Missions, which was outside of the regular comic book continuity. In this issue, Spearhead and Max, along with Tunnel Rat, Airtight, and Charbroil, are searching the sewers under New York City for gas canisters left by Cobra and attempting to figure out Cobra's plan. On Spearhead's file card, it seems like his only asset in the field is as a team leader because people are willing to follow him. But here, in Spearhead's only comic book appearance, Tunnel Rat is leading the mission. Including Spearhead in this mission isn't a bad choice of character, but Tunnel Rat and Airtight are really the 2 most relevant characters here. Just about any member of the Joe team could have replaced Spearhead without affecting the story. The only unique element he offered was the inclusion of Max, who Spearhead points out is still alive after the team is hit with gas grenades. But even this happened after Airtight had already tested the gas and determined that it's not nerve gas but just smoke. Interestingly, despite almost no appearances in cartoons or comic books, Spearhead does show up on a fair amount of box art. The Desert Fox artwork shows Spearhead riding shotgun. He's manning the gun on the Tiger Shark box and manning one of many guns on the Rolling Thunder. He's also finally leading the team as they storm the beach on the box art for the Warthog. Spearhead can be seen riding the tank car on the artwork for the 1988 vehicle packs, and Spearhead and Max are both featured in the artwork for the Cobra Battle Gear accessory pack number 6. In addition to the package art, Spearhead was also featured on a jigsaw puzzle with Crocmaster and the Rolling Thunder. The 1988 figures were some of the last ones I had as a kid, so they didn't see as much action as earlier years, but Spearhead in particular just had too many small things that seemed wrong for me to get too excited about the figure. Today, I see the potential in him, and I'm glad I have him in my collection. But what did you think about Spearhead and Max? Did you have these figures as a kid? Were they right up front in every battle, or did they often get left behind in the toy box? Tell me in the comments below. Also, please give this video a like and share it on social media. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notifications bell so that you'll be notified when I post new videos. And one last thing, if you're a fan of toys, you should know about ToyLanta, the biggest toy show in the southeastern United States, held annually just north of Atlanta, Georgia. Visit ToyLanta.com for more information. As always, thanks for watching.